Politics is a bad industry. You want to get rich? Enter politics. It was later when I was already 3 years in the seminary. Oh, my Lord. Ito pala ang pagpapare. To lead without a vision is treason. To contribute in a small amount that passes through your plate to become crumbs that will help people survive. But put it this way, my father is a professional. He's a doctor. My mother is a high school graduate. At that time naman, ang mga babae, halos hindi. Aral ka nga sa kolehiyo, St. Bridget's, hanggang doon na lang. If you have to go to college, you have to go to Manila. And so, it is true that we have some political lineage because the father of my mother, so my lolo, is a politician. My father was also somehow linked with politics through my lolo.
There is a history of politicians on both sides of the family, and a lot of things, a lot of stories were told to the young ones, to the children, about things that happened in the past amongst politicians when mommy or daddy would be talking about it, and told us that it is not a very nice profession because of many things. A lot of which is doing things that were forbidden by God's commandments.
So, maybe intentional yon ni Tito Father na ayaw niya siguro sa amin na mag-run for politics. Kasi alam niya na there's a very big temptation for corruption. And kung gusto mo namang tumulong, pwede naman tumulong na hindi mo kailangan pumunta sa politika. So maybe it was subconsciously instilled in us na not to go into politics.
Politics is a bad industry. You want to get rich? Enter politics. I will not have to say more.
It was a pretty big house. A lot of times we played inside the house. Sometimes either my mother or my father would chase us out of the house, out into the ground, to the garden area, and play there.
Looking back at the story, that what I hear and what I've read, nung bata siya, parang napunta na sa puso niya yung pagkapare. Parang it was put in his heart. Sasabihin niya noon na kwento niya yan nung bata siya, pilyo siya, super pilyo.
Obviously, this goes back many years. I remember him when we were both young. I'm 5 years younger than him. Father Densi was probably the most, should I say, penalized one because of naughtiness. There may be some naughtiness, maybe some mischievousness.
Parang he would be the least likely to become a priest. Pero at some point, talagang parang it was in his heart, and nung nagpaalam siya, nagulat nga lahat.
I don't think he told any of his siblings, okay? His sisters or brothers. When Father Dante told him that he wanted to go to the seminary, I think my father tried to tell him to slow down a little bit, and if you really want to go, then be the best at it.
You want to become a priest? You have to learn. You have to learn Latin. Morning and afternoon, we go to school, learn Latin, conjugate the verbs that are all, it was a tedious duty in the seminary. I was attending school in the seminary. I want to become a priest. It was later when I was already 3 years in the seminary. Oh, my Lord, ito pala ang pagpapare. Strict, disciplined, ordered, leaving practically no time for ourselves. And yet, I was happy. I began to love my vocation. I began to love Jesus. This was it. When I realized this is why I'm going to be a priesthood, I go for it. I think that will be the first disappointment of a priest. The moment you were ordained, you take the vow of obedience. So wherever your bishop tells you to go, you go. In the 50s and 60s, most of San Jose graduates would be placed in the seminary. So I was caught by that practice. So I remember what the late Archbishop Aurelio told me. Rosales, there were the two of you ordained, one from San Carlos, two of you will stay in the seminary. Take it with a smile. Keep it there only for 2 years. So I'm happy 2 years only. Boy, that 2 years. After 2 years, 3 years, okay. Oh my God, I said, what's this? Doing the same thing, teaching at the same time until my 12th year. I went back to the bishop and said, Your Excellency, give me a break. Remove me from the seminary. People are getting tired of me. Please give me a break. Please, please. Finally, I got my first parish. The poorest parish. I was very happy. From the poorest parish, I went to Antipolo as a bishop, but not as a diocesan bishop, because Antipolo is still part of Manila. I was there as the district bishop of East Rizal Antipolo district, still part of Manila. Then there was trouble in the seminary of San Carlos. From Antipolo brought me to San Carlos. Then after 2 years and a half in San Carlos, they brought me to Bukidnon. love the people. I love their ways of life. They're so honest, they're poor. It's a hate-love story. First, I don't like them. Then, they don't like me. And later on, we love each other.
He spoke in English, but then he tried his best during the Thanksgiving yata yun, after his installation. His introduction of himself, he said, "Niya ako aron maglingkod sa inyo." And the people laughed because it would mean for us that I am here to sit on you. So that was funny. We laughed.
It's in Bukidnon where I was introduced to real poverty of people. It is in Bukidnon where I learned to sleep on the bare ground or a mat. It is in Bukidnon where I learned, I have experienced hiking to the mountain 8 hours. It is in Bukidnon where I had to cross rivers and creeks. It is in Bukidnon I saw people suffering. You wouldn't believe it. I'm saying it now for the first time. It is in Bukidnon where the whole time I was there, mark this, I never received stipend. 11 years. Any new priest about to be ordered must be sent to Mindanao.
I came to know him when I was still a seminarian. My first impression of him was this guy must be a light-hearted person.
He was mentioned by our rector and major seminary in Davao. They told us that our coming bishop is the most holiest bishop of all bishops in the Philippines. So, nagulat kaming lahat. Mabait, sobrang kabait. Fatherly. Then palaging nasa simbahan, sa chapel. He is always with us, giving recollection, retreat. The post of my time set to interview each one of us. Ganon.
Father, are you getting emotional talking
Yes.
about him? Why?
Because we love him.
He was a very likable bishop. He was cheerful and very approachable to people. And he had also a heart, especially for the care of the environment and the care of the indigenous people.
Subalit nitong mga nakaraang taon, ang kanilang ani ay di naging maganda. Pahaba ng pahaba ang panahon ng tagtuyot. Bihira ang pag-ulan. Damang-dama ng mga taga rito ang pagkasira ng kapaligiran.
Because at the time, there was a lot of transporting of logs from the mountains, and they tried to organize the parishioners in San Fernando, so the parish priest there, to organize them into small cells, basic ecclesial communities, so that they can be empowered to stop the logging trucks going down from there to Cagayan de Oro.
Una, pagkabot yun ako diri sa Malawmaw, kinindiri asang pa niya. Ang ulan, nagdugay yun undang, pero dili kay dako ang baha, tungod kay napugan pa man sa mga kahoy. Sa nag-anam ang tuig, hinahinay po o kawala ang Okay, agi man ang laging dire. Atong narili ko. Kining bayan sa illegal lagi. Murag dako kaya nag-epekto sa ingon na mo nga mag-uuma.
At the time, there was a rampant of cutting of trees. No? So our mountains, our valleys were already denuded. No? We cannot imagine that Bukidnon at that time was already experiencing flash floods. It began when the people of San Fernando Parish initiated the protest of stopping the logging. No? So there was a series of protests, of strikes. No? It came to a point that Bishop Dincy agreed that his priest will be deputized as dinar deputies to stop, to seize logs.
Roger, kay nakuno siya Mike dito dapit sa Mercado. Go.
Likewise. Oy, ma'am, litlag di ako, litlag, kalimot. We were deputized by the DENR na manghuli ng mga cutted trees and lumber. We feel this courage, very strong courage, since we are licensed to hold the trucks and illegal loggers. We don't get discouraged because Bishop Rosales is there, strongly supporting us.
And they were very successful in stopping the logging. And it was due to him that there was really a log ban here in Bukidnon. But at the cost of high cost of the assassination of one of our priests.
The martyrdom of Father Nery Sator was a culmination. No? Sorry, I'm emotional. I could still remember Bishop Dincy, very passionate. Yung tinatawag natin na righteous anger. Wow, he was really mad. No? He was really angry.
During funeral mass, he was so brave and angry. He told the military, one of these days, one of you also will be killed.
Anong ginawa ng mga tao na nampalasan ng kalikasan? At kita mo, nangalbon yan. Nakita nila, ang ginawa nila ay ang kahoy para sa kanila. Nawala ng kabahagi ang mga nakatira dito. Sila lang ang yumaman. Pero ginawa, yan. Very, very contrary to what the church is teaching.
Very compassionate siya and strong in forgiveness and very lenient. But once he is triggered with big issues, especially with regards to the stand of the church, he is very strong. Like a prophet. Instead na matakot kami, mas nalalo pa kaming nagmatapang and strongly determined to really stop illegal and legal logging dito sa Bukidnon. We don't want that when he was killed, everything stops. No, sabi namin, ipagpatuloy natin ito. So lahat kami na mga pari, imbes matakot, nagiging mas matapang pa. Kasi nagkakaisa na kami lalo.
So that was how he was. He was brave in spreading the truth of the gospel. He was known for that, speaking frankly in public about the truth.
As long as you believe that God is the one directing your life, I always believe in having a vision, yung pananaw, what you and your people want to be, want to achieve. That's very clear in Proverbs. He said, to lead without a vision is treason. You are betraying your people if you just go. That's wrong. To lead without a vision is betraying. It's treason. I had to go to Lipa. It's in Lipa where I became a priest. In Lipa where I first taught. In Lipa where I first served. But even then, there has to be a difference. Why? Because this time, I am the pastor of Lipa. People had different ideas about an old-timer coming back to where he was before. I remember my first pastoral meeting with them. They presented me with a resolution that Lipa Archdiocese will celebrate a synod. Talagang hinahin sa akin. I said, brother priest, thank you. I promise you, we are going to have a synod for the Archdiocese of Lipa if we have no other things to do. Pag wala na tayong magawa, magsisinudo tayo. Tawa sila. Bakit? Baka meron mas magaling pa kayo sa sinudo eh. O gusto nyo may magawa tayo. Let's create a vision. Ang isa sa mga nagibura ay yung reach out portion. How would this help people? When you're talking of fullness of life, kaganapan ng buhay. Nakatitik yan sa ating pananaw. In actual life, paano ito mangyayari? To contribute the small amount that passes through your plate to become crumbs that will help people survive. So, dahan-dahan, yung 20 centimos araw-araw ay titipunin para maipadama sa mga nangangailangan. 20 centavos. Some people didn't take the idea. Some people look at it with dismay. Ano? Momo? Crumbs of life? Momo? Isubok ngayon, nung lalaki ka. You join. We could get thousands. Colonel Sin was retiring. Pakaawa naman matanda. Maraming kandidato sa Maynila noon. Apat yata, pati ako. Nung tawagin akong first time pa Maynila, doon sa dun sa tour. I am already old. Sinabi ko sana siya, I am not in a position to accept. Matanda na ako. I was 71, going to be 72. What's the next 3 years going to do?
Ang Maynila noon maraming problema. Nasa transition siya ng gobyerno sa labas. Tapos kakatapos lang ng mga krisis na nangyayari sa lipunan, pati ang simbahan inaatake, no? Noong panahon na yon, yung mga pamumulitika daw ng simbahan, yung mga scandals, ng mga clerical scandals. Kaya hirap ang mga pare, ang kaparian noon ay medyo lost at saka medyo down, no? At siya ay papasok sa loob ng konteksto na ito. May healing na kailangan sa kaparian, lumalaganap ang kahirapan sa Maynila, tapos yung sitwasyon pa ng gobyerno, ekonomiya, at ang simbahan ay kailangan ng pagbabago. Kaya yun ang nangyari sa Manila noon, nahati-hati siya to different dioceses. So transition ang pinasukan ni Cardinal Rosales. Hinatid ko si Bishop Salazar noon sa Lipa. Na-assign siya sa Lipa. Pagdating namin sa Bishop's House, si Archbishop Rosales pa noon, kamiting anunsyo. Ang tagal nilang nag-uusap. Nag-break lang sila para kumain. Nakakunot ang ulo ng dalawa, serious. Nagloloko itong si Bishop Salazar, pero parang tulala ang dalawa. Tapos bumalik ulit sa kwarto. Tapos sabi ni Bishop Salazar, isa lang ang pinag-uusapan niyan. Ano yun, Bishop? Maynila.
Nagulat kaming lahat. Nasa seminaryo pa ako noon. Nagulat kami na Archbishop Rosales ng Lipa. No? At doon parang nagsimula na kami na sino ba siya? Sino ba talaga si Cardinal Rosales? Parang hindi namin naiisip na isa siya kasi hindi naman siya masyadong kilala dahil hindi naman siya masyadong lumalabas sa media. Kaya parang hindi siya yung naiisip namin na posibleng pumalit.
Isa sa mga nangyari nung panahon ni Cardinal Rosales ay kaagad-agad niyang ibinahagi ang pangangailangan ng vision para sa Archdiocese of Manila. Sabi nga niya, leadership without a vision is treason. Malakas na salita, mga salita yun ha. Malakas na pangungusap yun. Kaya ang una niyang sinimulan ay pagkakaroon ng vision. Pero alam niyo, ang nauna sa vision ay yung pondo ng Pinoy.
Pinagkaloob sa atin itong biyaya ng yung makilala natin hindi lamang ang pangangailangan ng ating mga kapatid na naghihikahos, kundi maangkin natin, malaman natin na meron tayong magagawa.
He was so fired up with pondo ng Pinoy. Ito ay community foundation na ang direksyon ay para iangat ang antas ng buhay ng mga kapuspalad. Kasi sa kanyang pag-iisip, sa kanyang damdamin, ang daan ni Jesus ay daan ng mga kapuspalad o daan ng mga mahihirap.
First impression ko po sa kanya ay napaka-pro-people na obispo. So yung isa pong impression na tumatak sa akin, yung talagang yung pagmamahal niya sa mga mahihirap. Kaya nga po nabuo yung pondo ng Pinoy para po ito sa mga mahihirap na walang kakayahan, walang kapangyarihan na makapagdesisyon sa kanilang tatahakin na buhay sapagkat kapos po sila sa kabuhayan.
Wala kami sariling bahay, saka kakabakabahan ka. Kasi mamaya magkasunog at naranasan po namin magkasunog 2005. Wash out po lahat ito. Siyempre, pangarap ko magkaroon ng sariling bahay at lupa. Pangarap ko po. Naiyak ako.
Yung sitwasyon po nila, sitwasyon ng katulad dito sa urban poor, dito sa Maynila, sitwasyon po ng kahirapan, na walang sariling bahay. So yung mga tao po ay nangungupahan dito sa mga malalaking tao na ito at hindi po sa kanila yung lupa. At doon po sa karanasan ng Villa Umami, ito po yung pag-aari ng isang pribadong pamilya. Mabait po sila sapagkat nais po nilang ibenta yung lupa doon sa mga mahihirap. Pero wala pong kakayahan yung mga mahihirap, yung mga informal settlers natin, mga kaibigan, wala po silang kakayahan.
Pag nabigay na po namin yung 500,000, saka pa lang po papayag ang may-ari na ibenta sa social housing yung lupa. Tapos social housing na po ang bahalang magpatayo ng building. Ganun po yun nangyari. Ano na po, ika-4 na taon na, pinadala na kami ng sulat. Ang naipon namin is 200,000. Ayaw naman po niyang tanggapin. Gusto niya buong 500,000. Tumakbo na po kami sa simbahan kay Father Eric. Tapos si Father Eric na po ang nagsabi sa amin na pumunta kami sa pondo ng Pinoy.
Naisip ko yung pondo ng Pinoy na nandun pa si Cardinal Rosales. No? At that time, pumunta kami sa opisina ng pondo ng Pinoy at sinabi naman na pwede naman i-grant yung aming proposal. Malaking tulong sa mga mahihirap. Alam mo, yung naipon namin sa simbahan na benching ko, maliit lang yun. Di nga siguro aabot ng 200,000 o 300,000. Pero dahil sa pondo ng Pinoy na pinag-ipon-ipon sa buong Pilipinas at sa Metro Manila, naabot ho yung 300,000, naibigay namin yung 300,000 doon sa may-ari. At yun po, history na.
Nung nakuha pa namin yung pera sa Pondong Pinoy, para kaming nabunutan ng tinik.
Finally, konting oras na lang, makakatungtong na kayo sa inyong mga unit. No? Makakamtam nyo na ang inyong pangarap na sariling bahay.
First, nagkaroon ng pagmamalasakitan. Nung naitayo yung pabahay, nagkaroon kami ng pagmamalasakitan, nagkaroon ng munting Kristiyanong pamayanan. Nagsimulang naging active yung mga tao, hindi lang sa simbahan, pwede sa pamayanan. No? Naging totoo sa kanila kung anong ibig sabihin ng pagmamalasakitan, naging totoo sa kanila kung anong ibig sabihin ng pagdadamayan.
Finally, makakatulog na po kayo ng tahimik at walang agam-agam sa inyo.
Dahil dito sa pondo ng yung mga tao nagkaroon ng, alam mo, yung unti-unting pagbabago. Sa simpleng bagay na pagdadamayan, pagbabahagi, natuto sila. Kasi nakita nila, posible pala na hindi kami forever na mahirap na nakatira sa urban poor community. Gusto namin mangarap ng isang bahay na may dignidad. At doon nagsimula po yung pagdadamayan. Kaya alam nila yung pondo ng Pinoy na sa maliit na halaga, pwede makapagpabago ng buhay ng tao at ng pamayanan.
bilang isa po sa benepisyo ng pondo ng Pinoy, napakalaking halaga po nun sa amin. Kasi kung hindi dahil sa pondo ng Pinoy, wala po kaming pabahay ngayon.
Ang hinihingi ng dukha ay maliit na bagay. Awa lamang. Awa ang hinihingi nila.
Hindi lang ito sa Manila, kundi yung vision niya buong Pilipinas. Sabi niya, naalala ko nga, maliit lang ito, pero makakapagpabago ito ng buhay ng tao, no, ng mga mahihirap ng buong Pilipinas. And true to his statement, nakakapagpabago ito sapagkat nagsisimulang tumayo yung mga tao, no, sa kanilang kahirapan. Nagkakaroon muli sila ng dignidad. At the same time, tahimik, no? Akala mo walang ginagawa ang simbahan, pero tahimik na ginagawa ito ng simbahan na may pagmamahal, pagmamalasakit, pagdadamayan.
Ang ikalawang movement noon, pagkatapos ng Pondo ng Pinoy launching, ay yun namang launching ng Vision Statement of the Archdiocese of Manila. Ito na nga ang hinimay ng mabuti ng kardinal sa pamamagitan ng Manila Archdiocesan General Pastoral Assembly o MAGPAS. Talagang committed ang kardinal na makipagkita sa mga laiko, mga pamunuang laiko sa Archdiocese of Manila. Isa sa magagandang nangyari doon ay mas nakilala siya ng mga laiko. Pero idagdag ko rin na ang sabi nga niya, sa mga monthly recollection ng mga pare ng Archdiocese of Manila, kung ano yung sinasabi niya sa MAGPAS, sa mga laiko at sa mga relihiyoso na dumadalo doon, yun din naman din ang ibinabahagi niya sa mga pare.
Sobra-sobrang mahal niya ang mga pare. Kasi nga formator siya by heart. Kaya napakahalaga sa kanya ng mga pare at yung formation din ng mga pare. Una, yung Synod of Bishops on the formation of priests na naglabas noong encyclical ni Pope John Paul II na Pastores Dabo Vobis, kasama si Cardinal Rosales sa Synod of Bishops na yon. At pinagmamalaki niya yon na naging bahagi siya ng napakahalagang dokumentong iyon na naging gabay ng paghuhubog sa mga pare at sa mga nagpapare. Yung pagmamahal niya sa mga pare, personal kong nakita sa kanyang pagdarasal para sa mga pare. Kapag nagmimisa kami sa residensya, yung kami-kami lang, kapag wala siyang misa sa labas, magmimisa siya ng umaga, ang misang ginagamit niya palagi ay yung Mass for Priests. Basta nagmisa siya dun sa chapel ng residensya, Mass for Priests yan. Palagi niyang pinagdarasal yung mga pare. Bago siya mag-ordain ng pare, nag-holy hour siya, 1 oras para dun sa paring i-ordain niya. Kung 7 yung i-ordain niya, bago yung ordination, kailangan makapag-7 holy hours siya, 7 hours, 1 hour for each priest to be ordained. Kapag mag-ordain siya ng obispo, 2 hours para dun sa obispo i-ordain niya. At nakikita ko yun kasi nandun siya sa private chapel niya kapag nagdarasal siya.
Para nga po sa kanya, lagi if you want to renew the church, you start with the priests. No? Ganun din naman, kung kabaligtaran, yung kasiraan ng simbahan, nagsisimula rin po sa kasiraan ng mga pare. Kaya, sobra po ang pagmamahal niya sa mga pare. No? Sobrang pagmamahal. Marami siyang na ginawa, not only buildings but programs, no, para ho sa renewal ng mga pare.
Isa pa sa mga pinagawa niya bilang chairman ng Episcopal Commission on Clergy ng CBCP ay yung St. John Mary Vianney Galilee Development Center for Priests sa Tagaytay. Yun naman ay lugar kung saan nag-undergo yung mga pare noong permanent or ongoing formation. Isang center sa Pilipinas para sa pare, lahat ng pare sa Pilipinas na kailangan ng formation, yung renewal, no? Doon ginagawa sa Tagaytay. At nagkaroon ng sariling lugar kasi dati palipat-lipat kung saang retreat house available, doon lang ginagawa yung program. So binigyan niya ng sariling bahay itong programa ng Commission on Clergy. So napakalaking tulong nun kasi all year round, no, iba't ibang mga grupo ng mga pare ang gumagamit ng center na yon.
Lihatag sa Gardas Brothers niya.
He wanted that his clergy would have a close relationship among them, among ourselves. No? That is why during his stint in Malaybalay, he encourages us to report to Bishop's house every Monday and Tuesday. No? So just to feel our brotherhood, to promote our brotherhood.
Meet na po si Lolo Cardinal Rosales.
Lusin siya sa October 14, 1991.
He would always remind us to always attend recollection, retreats. In fact, I remember him jokingly, no, telling us, he told us, no, I told Father why he was not around during the ordination of our brother priest. And the priest told him, Bishop, I have a various schedule. And the bishop told him, oh, what a very poor theology. So that statement of Bishop Dincy elicited laughter from us. No? So almost all the priests could still remember that joke of Father.
Two years before I graduated po, lumabas na po yung news na i-revive ni Cardinal Rosales yung theological seminary dito sa Lipa. From then on po, nung lumabas na po yung plano ni Lolo na bubuksan yung theological seminary uli, every month po, minimit niya kami. Tuturuan niya kami para po sa akin yung idea niya kung ano ang pagpapare, yung idea niya kung ano ang simbahan at kung gaano ka-crucial ang role ng pari sa simbahan. Ipinapasa na po niya sa amin.
Because he emphasizes sacramental brotherhood over parish schedules. For him, not attending recollections, retreats, clergy meetings, for him, it is a mortal sin. He will tell us jokingly, but it has a deep meaning. No? It left a deep impact on us. No?
Yung St. Joseph Signorate kasi pinatayo niya yon bilang arsobispo ng Lipa. Kasi nga gusto niya magkaroon ng maayos na retirement house ang mga pare. Kaya pinatayo niya doon sa loob din ng compound ng seminaryo. Sabi niya dito nagsisimula sa seminaryo, dito rin ang dulo, no? Ang wakas. No? At pinlano niya talaga na doon na mag-retire. Kasi akala niya magre-retire siya as Archbishop of Lipa. Kaya sabi niya yung room number 8, kanya na yon, kanya yon. Kaya lang nalipat nga siya sa Manila.
Dito, I became stronger, younger. Why? So nice, huh? To be here. I became more prayerful. Kasi I have all the time. Lalo na mag-pandemic, we could not go out. So we have luxury of time. So dito, I have regimented life. You know? There is time for prayer, time to eat, time to sleep, time to exercise, Time for everything. Sana magkaganito ang mga dioceses. At sana ang mga pari din ay magkasama-sama sa ganito at their old age. Dahil, you know why? Wala kaming families na eh. Who would take care of us? Ang aming mga at most nephews, nieces siguro, brothers, sisters, baka matanda na rin by that time. Kasi ang retirement is 75. So what can you expect? Eh kung ang mga kapatid mo ay older than you, could they take care of you? So it was more likely it will be our nephews and nieces. And our nieces naman by that time will be busy with their work, with their family of their own. So wala. Ay, dito kami. Wow. Well taken care of. Well taken care of. We cannot ask for more. Tama na yun.
Palagay ko po kung mayroong isang pamana si Lolo sa mga Pilipino ay yung filosofiya ho ng Pondo ng Pinoy. Kahit yung pinakaabang tao, kaya tumulong.
May 25 sentimos ka sa buhay. Ibigay mo yan sa ngalan ng pag-ibig ni Jesus para sa nangangailangan. Yan ang hiwaga, ang milagro ng Pondo ng Pinoy.
Ang simbahan, ang isa sa mga dapat malakas na boses para sabihin dito sa mga Pilipino. Kaya nating tulungan ng isa't isa. Ano man ang estado natin sa buhay, mayroon tayong ibibigay. No? Kung bubuhayin lang natin yung diwa ng pagmamahal ng isang Kristiyano sa puso po natin.
Ang outstanding sa kanya, which I like, which inspired me as a young seminarian wanting to be a priest is, I saw in him a priest who is a priest. Yung bang, alam kong ito'y pare, na parang si Jesus ba, yung, with all his humility.
Si Cardinal Rosales, kasi nangingibabaw sa kanya yung humility. So tingin ko yung para sa akin, napakalaking bagay na natutunan ko sa kanya. Kahit naman naging kardinal ng Arsobispo ng Maynila, tinatawag ng Primate of the Philippines, pero hindi ko naman naramdaman sa kanya yon kahit kailan. At hindi niya pinaramdam sa kahit kanino na ganun siya, yung level niya, yung kanyang status sa simbahan at sa lipunan.
That made a mark on me. That in spite of it all, in spite of the honor and the dignity bestowed on him by the church, he remained and continued to remain a very humble man.
I think what Cardinal Rosales' legacy is his faithfulness in his life as priest, as bishop, his concern for the poor, his love for the poor, and his love for the church, for the growth of the church in general. I think that's what he did here in Bukidnon. He really initiated activities that would make our priests faithful and make the church grow and be united. In the simplicity of his life, he made himself very accessible to the people, to the poor, especially.
He is fatherly to us. He is a brother to us. He sees goodness in us. He does not judge us. He takes us for what we are. When he prays for us, we know.
When Lolo highlights the importance of the priest, it is not the power that comes with priesthood. It is not the popularity that comes with priesthood. It is not the privileges that comes with priesthood. But the importance na sa pare, naroon lagi si Kristo. Lagi nang sinasabi, the priest should be configured to Christ. Yung itsura ni Kristo dapat nasa sa pare. So para po sa akin, ang tingin ko po sa sinasabi ni Lolo, ang pare dapat ay maging tunay na Kristo sa mga mananampalataya.